Hey folks, you're very welcome back to another episode of the Meditations on Movement podcast. Today I have Adam back as a permanent guest, I suppose.
Yeah.
We'll be doing more regular episodes, I think. It'll be a nice way for us to conversate on various different topics.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'd be happy with that coming along. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's good. Okay.
Happy New Year, guys.
Yeah. Happy New Year and all that sort of stuff. I hope you had a wonderful holiday season. Hope you have decent enough plans for the new year, all that sort of good stuff. Today we're going to be discussing basically our opinions on social media. We're going to try and keep this somewhat brief and to the point on certain topics and try not to get too far away with ourselves. But we basically want to discuss what are... Obviously the negatives are considered a lot of the time, but I think people rarely talk about the positives. Like we kind of just see it in some way as... something that's there constantly, I suppose, for a certain generation. There are some that maybe don't see it as much of an issue. I think we get plastered a lot recently, don't we, with a lot of the negative sides of things, but maybe the positives just go under the radar as well. They're just not really discussed, but they're just kind of there. They're not really considered in a way, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to the positive and negatives, we're going to discuss it obviously in the context of movement. So it's where we're going to start with things. So we'll get right into it. But we'll also discuss a little bit later positive and negatives, I suppose, of society at large. Okay. I guess I'll ask you first, and you can always ask me next. Where do you feel some of the positives lie within movement, or maybe how have you seen some of the positives?
I think the one that comes straight to mind is generally just, you see people who inspire you.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people that I follow, there's some people that their skill level is like just out of this world. So I find myself with this side of it is I see something that I'm attracted to, or I know that that's someone, there's a quality in them that I like, and I generally save that in the thing that you never look in.
the random archive of stuff that you never check.
But no, like I go back over it every now and again, and there's certain quality of people that I like on social media, and I think it does, even just watching people over time, like dancers and stuff like that, like sometimes it comes out in something that you're doing. If you're doing an improv and stuff like that, you're like, where did that come from? And I'm like, that I seen that in a video or somewhere. I haven't practiced it, but some flavour came out. But I think that's the one side for me anyway. I find there's great people out there that are inspiring. That's the first positive.
I guess, you're thinking about it directly in terms of like when you are in more of an improv free association type setting. Like for me anyway, when I think about it, movement has been obviously something that we've got into like more recently. Like I would have had bits and bobs scattered here and there of things that I would have seen, but then obviously your feed changes over time. You start to become more interested in different topics, so that starts to take up a certain amount of space on your feed, right? So you start to see, like, definitely for me anyway, I've seen a lot more of a movement focused thing, and I've obviously started following those accounts and interacting with them a lot more. So for sure, like you start to see that come through. I guess someone like it's very interesting, right? Isn't it? We discussed this the other day when it's like certain people's style, or the way in which they move can be very, as you've said, like inspirational. It can look very good. You admire it, and you think, like in some way, you want to replicate it. Like not directly as a carbon copy, just to steal it. You can't really do that, of course. It's someone's style at the end of the day. But there's an identification of this is fantastic. I don't know how like you can analyze it and look at it and say like the way in which it's being done, or but something is coming through, right?
Yeah, seeing it as well. Like what about yourself? Like what really sticks out to you like the most in terms of that? Like, is it more inspiration, or do you find it's more got to do with value, or what do you look at?
I find it certainly interesting when he comes across as like we're obviously in a very interesting space in the fact that there's we've talked about this previously, where some form of communication is happening that's non-verbal. Like where you can take something as a score for a improv. You can use that then to communicate something through movement, and I think that's where I think about like the thing that you can't quite put your finger on.
Yeah.
You know, you see something,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like the interpretation of art. You know, you go to a museum and you kind of look at something, you go, something about this is class. Something about this really interests me, but it's like I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And that's very interesting for us to observe, right? Because there wasn't always a form of like communication. Like there wasn't always verbal communication, and even at that, like it like trying to think back to how communication started, right, between two people. Like it would have started off as grunts at a certain point, and then it evolved a little bit more, obviously.
Yeah.
But so, is there more of an eye for movement, maybe, as a form of communication? Like you look at tribes and you look at early cultures, and like some form of dance or ritual would have been very much part of the tribe's culture, its ethos and what it was doing. Like they would have had ceremonies, and you see like dancing movement is such an important part of it. And they would have been communicating things through the dance and through the ritual. So I take that in some way as like what I see as very interesting aspects of social media, because you're getting such a large exposure to people that you just wouldn't see on a regular basis. You know, you would have been confined to
your city,
people in
your
Dublin,
town.
people in Ireland, whatever it was.
It.
You might have come across that. There would have been random people who would have travelled and you would have seen them. And like, wow, this is crazy. But now we have such an open access to people that are moving in these various ways, like not just in terms of movement, what we're categorizing it as, but just people in other fields. Like we look at breaking, we look at hip hop, we look at those things, and we can still see something coming through, right?
It's incredible. Like I think on that side of it, there's some people that like I see now, like obviously there's certain things that we've done in acrobatics, and then you see somebody who before maybe you're like, you would have looked and just been like, what did I do, what's their background? Like I've tried DM like one or two of them that they're really, really good, a lot of followings and stuff, like a big following, whatever, and obviously, you know, you don't hear back. But I was like, my question was just like, before it was like, who did you work with, what's your background? But then when you start to see something like, you know, like the reverse hinge is something now that I see pop up in loads of people, loads of dancers, loads of like really good ones that do stage work and stuff like that. The reverse hinge is popping up at left, right and centre.
Do you mean like
that pattern
within what they're doing, or isolated?
No, in what they're doing.
In what they're doing.
How essential it is. Like that's what I mean. Is that before you're just looking at somebody in awe, and you're like, you don't like, where did they do this? Where did they get that? Like, what is their background? What have they? And then you can see
something that's just so apparent within what they're doing and looks like such a big part, and it's just like, where did that?
Where did you start? Like
where's
what have you been
origin?
practicing? Exactly. Where are the roots? But then I think the last while, what I've really liked is that I can see certain patterns that we were exposed to, and they're coming up in certain things that I've always looked at this person going like, what the fuck? Like, where do you? But it's obviously that I can't remember. I'll look up the guy's name, but I can't remember his name. But he's a performer, but he's just like, it's the freedom that he has is incredible. A lot of these bigger kind of movements that I haven't got yet, like the helicopter and other things like that, they're just doing it for
for fun,
in the middle
crazy.
of an improv. You know, with complete ease of the neck and everything else like that. So it's something I really I really admire. You know, But that's good, because that's what I like as well, is that over time, like if you're keeping your eye on it a little bit, and then you're getting involved in projects, then you know you're like, oh, I kind of have an idea of where I'm pulled towards, and then I just need to figure out what are the steps to get towards that, and then it's just like, it's gonna take you whatever amount of time and how long they're practicing. It's like that's it, like you know.
And I guess another thing, like obviously we're considering the positives, we can push things to the side and kind of consider as a negative in due time, but I certainly feel like what you said in terms of reaching out to people, like social media, right? Like it is a form of social network, socialization, that's even a word. But that idea of like actually being able to contact the person, right? And like as much as like when I consider it, I've always like thought about it as at least if you are like, we've all got kind of like weird DMs, haven't we, of people just kind of contacting us about the most random things. Like you put up a forex trading thing the other day, I thought was gas. Like you know, someone
Yeah.
someone follows you and then straight away they're like, hey bud, how's it going?
Yeah. No, you're doing well.
Yeah, exactly. And you're just like, oh god.
Yeah, it's funny. It's just nice to entertain, but that's where my mind went with it.
Yes.
The other day, I was just like Patrick Bateman. I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah, totally.
but
but it's funny, right? Because there are people who do genuinely reach out, and it is a case of like I think we see it, don't we? Like I always look at comment sections on some things, and it's always gas when you see it, because obviously there's a certain level of scale. And it's like whatever's got 1 million views or past that, and of course there's going to be a certain percentage then that comment and everything like that. It's always such a weird place to go into, isn't it? You go into the comment section, and you're kind of like, what is going on?
Man, like people commenting
on the
comment
most
section for years.
things.
I left it for years.
Yeah,
and
I don't comment on stuff.
No, me neither.
You know, like
me neither.
just...
But I do lately, and I've been missing out. Like that's what I feel like we've been missing out, because it was like, the comment section is gold.
Yeah,
they're I don't know. I won't go into.
No, but I get it in terms of like.
But there's great stuff in there, and like when you look at it, it is a form of some community.
Yeah.
Like I've listened to it was like a TED talk, or I can't remember the name of the podcast years ago. It was some radio show in America that just was really big. I'll get it in a minute, but they were talking about that. Like there's a whole thing going on in the comment section.
It's an ecosystem.
There's people are giving each other tips and helping each other and things like that. Like when you are looking at the positive, it's very easy to look at the negative from when you look at that, there's actually people helping people in that. Like some people, probably, there's the negative side is you shouldn't be on social media looking for someone to help your maybe like in the comment section in a YouTube video, there's people you probably go to help, in real life.
Like I think about those videos where it's like everyone's taking the piss out of them now at this stage. It's like POV, I did this one exercise for back pain, and now I've paid off my debt on my house. Like I have a girlfriend now,
like,
and
you need
like,
to do split squats together.
All of these things, like, and I've always seen like it's maybe the negative side of things. Like I've always looked at the negative side of the comment section, because when I do go in, you just see, and it's like, in some way it's like carnage, right? It's like, the topic might be on whatever it is, and it's usually people commenting on the negative thing that they find. They maybe don't agree, and as a result they're commenting on it. And it's not to say that like that isn't warranted or needed. There's obviously some form of discussion, but it's like, at what cost? It's like, at what the form of communication is so limited. Right? It's like, you have to admit to some degree that the ability to, like, for us to have a conversation in person with no limitations and no issue of like potential altercation is an open form of discussion, right? It's like, if I can present an opinion to you, and me not feeling it in a scenario where I'm going to actually receive physical abuse or verbal abuse, then that warrants good communication. We can get to the end of something. Whereas like so much of the form of communication online, and it's like especially in the comment section, is weighted towards the negative side of things. I feel it's like it's a poor form of communication to begin with, and then it goes that direction where it's people just barking at each other and nobody really listening.
That's it.
And it's maybe that if that's the negative, you've highlighted the positive for sure. There's that aspect of a form of community. There's the helping hand. And maybe you can.
But with that side, like the trolls, or not the trolls, or the people that are in there and just like going at it, it's like it's such a waste of energy, that side of it. It's like you're going mad. I see that other side of it. I see it as well. When you're like, what are these people doing? Like, if you're in a comment section every day screaming at it, and it's unbelievable. Like, it's like your quality of life must be terrible. That's the other side of it. Like, there's people in helping each other, things like that. But the other side, if you're in there every day, or just getting triggered all the time, it's the same thing. The algorithm's going to feed you more of that. That's I noticed that with YouTube. I was watching some mad shit at one stage. It was just about wars and stuff like that, and then out of nowhere you're just getting all these YouTube people who do that, and I was like, that was the first time when I was younger I realized, I was like, I'm not going to click onto any of that, like any of that shit, like, not that I'm not going to watch stuff on wars. I can keep updated,
Yes,
but
yeah,
it's
of
just
course.
more these sensationalist kind of YouTube videos with clickbaits, and they're basically saying, look, the war is starting tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's just that, just being careful with that stuff, like, or just, I think that's why I've always stayed away from the comment section majority of the time, because I've just seen people getting vile in there, you know?
Yeah. But I guess that's it in terms of, like, I would much rather DM someone than I would do it via a public forum in, like, the comment section. And it's not to say that, like, what I have to say is something that needs to be discussed privately.
I've done that.
But it's like, it's almost as if that's what we do.
Yeah, that's the right way of doing it, I think.
Probably.
Yeah. Well, like, it's easy, you know, going in, well, not that it's easy. It's going to be trolls after this now in going, no, it's not. But it's like, it's easy to do that.
Yeah.
And then the other side of directly saying something to somebody and that person that you might see in person, that says a lot that you're able to actually do that. You know, like, I've had it over the last few years. There was certain things that I seen a friend put up on their story, and I'm like, man, like, watch what you're saying, like, you know. And I've messaged them, and then we've had a bit of an argument and stuff like that, back and forth. But not random people. You know, some randomer from America. I'm not just, who are you? I don't even know you.
It's,
you know,
it's
like,
who cares kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's to kind of think about it, like, in terms of the negative, the comment section. It's like, I always just feel as if, like, how many times is a comment section full of, like, fire emoji?
Oh,
you know, it's like
like an angry face.
What is,
like,
and I know it's like it's all those sort of things. Like, I may be thinking about it more from the, like, the idea as a creator, you want to foster people engaging. It's like, it's not bad.
No.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, if someone has taken the time to put a fire emoji, it's like, that's cool. Yeah. But it's like, in my mind,
like, how do you reply to that?
It's cool. Fire emoji, it's like,
I did it literally the last day or two. Like, people will, they sent, like, you know, fire or whatever else like that, and I just did this one, you know, like, with a fire thing, and I'm like, in my mind, I'm like Goku fucking blowing a little. I was like, I'll just respond with another emoji, or you know, like, someone.
Maybe I'm looking into it too
No,
much.
but no,
like,
it's funny though. It is funny because, like, what do I say to fire? I'm just like, give you a bit of water.
Cool.
You know, like, you know, it's a little battle going on. It's like, it'd be great if we seen that, like, unfolding, and it's just loads of different emojis.
Yes.
She's great. It doesn't want to play, bro.
It's fine.
But that is funny because it again, it's probably on the negative side. It's like, I feel bad sometimes when I don't reply to people, or I get a message and I forget about it. I'm like, shit. I go back and I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't see that, and I'm after sending you a reel or whatever, and I didn't answer your question, or not, I didn't answer your question, I didn't reply to this one above. I think it was Andy sent me a nice message, and I just didn't see it, and me and him were sending each other a video, excuse me. So that's the side of it. Like, that sucks sometimes when you just forget. You know, and then also it's a poor way of, not that it's a poor way of communicating, but it's very low level compared to this.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. But I guess that's what you have to kind of consider in terms of the sacrifice that needs to be made, because you couldn't maintain this level of intimacy in terms of the communication, this level of detail with tons and tons of people. You know, as much as it is like you're letting people into a little window of what you're doing. Like,
this is where we add in a video of, like, you know, everyone in the comment section, if they're angry, what you'd hear. I was like, you know, what would that sound like? It would just be anyway. Sorry.
But I guess this is like our perspective on social media is always a little bit different to maybe the more, like, I try to consider this as the thing to keep in mind. Like, for us, social media is a tool in which we use as creators to give insight into, like, what it is that we're doing, you know. Like, I've always tried to consider it as, like, I'm trying to just give a little bit of an insight into my my practice, what I'm doing on a regular basis, and then it opens itself up. Like, you read more and more into, like, okay, well, what does this allow me to do? It's like, it allows me to create an audience. It allows me to get people interested in what it is that I'm doing. potentially work with those people in the future, and all that sort of great stuff. And it's like, okay, cool, but that's not the typical viewpoint or reason why someone is using social media. Like someone might be just using it as a media, like a representation of them online.
Yeah.
It's like just generally, cool, here's what I'm doing on a regular basis. It's not for that level of trying to build an audience and connect with people. It's just, I just want to stay online with my friends, engage with things that I find very interesting, and that's maybe the reason why they're using it.
My old roommate said, I'm just here to look pretty and creep. That's what
Yeah.
So she's an architect, and she just was like, I every now and again I'll post a picture, but I'm just on here, come on and just use it for a little bit of downtime after work. So
like tons of profiles don't post. That's the thing to consider. Like, and I feel is even the demographic as well. Like, it's a certain age group. You know, like you get to a certain age, and it just doesn't seem as if, like, obviously it's how prevalent it's been within our society and culture for however long it's been. There's not many people above the age of like 50, 60 on it regularly, using it on a very regular basis. They're maybe checking in a handful of times per week, and even at that, it's just to respond to one or two things, and then they're kind of done with it. Whereas it does seem for sure as if it's a lot more of a prevalent part of other generations' daily living. You know, they're communicating with most of their friends on it. They are interacting, and that's their main form of media. They're not even watching the news, they're not even watching the television. Like, I always find that an interesting conversation to kind of have with people when you forget that that's the lens that they have. You know, someone of an older generation who's getting their information from the TV. That's not to say that it's right or wrong or whatever, it's just that's the way they get their form of media. Whereas it's like, oh right, there's a perspective that you're taking in as a result, and then you then have, equally a biased form of media that you're getting, but is it a little bit more varied? Is it a little bit more nuanced potentially as a result? I don't necessarily know. I think that this is where we sort of play the balance of positive and negative. I know myself anyway. Like, I don't watch a lot of the news really, like the RT or whatever it is, like, not really. And I know a few people. I was talking to somebody from my hometown. She's over in Australia, and she came back. She's like, I never watched the news. Like, so I don't know. It's kind of like you can stay informed, but by who and what. It's one of them things. I don't know which is right and wrong. The difference is, I think you're getting one perspective, let's say, and then the algorithm will do your work for you. Whatever you're drawn towards. I think that's the thing we have to realize as well, though, isn't it? It's the echo chamber that you create in some way. 100%. Like, we're definitely going more towards the negative side of things here, where I remember, I think I've told you this story where like I set up a TikTok account, and I was like, what are the kids doing? Do you know? What are the kids on nowadays? So like went on to that for a brief period of time, and like, you start scrolling, and obviously you feed it very minimal information. It's probably got like your age, it's got where you're from, and that's about it. And it goes, okay, cool. Like, we've got these 2 data points. Let's use that and try to get some interest in, and see what they're. But that's what I mean. I got fed like lots of stuff about Ireland. And then immediately it started going towards like lots of politics. And it started giving me loads of stuff, like really.
Why? Do you look at lots of politics on your phone?
No, but this is what I mean. It's like it was a fresh account.
Okay.
So straight
on
away,
your phone in general, you don't look at politics or
not really, not too. Like, I mean, I random things here and there. Like, I'm not like completely oblivious to politics and what's going on. I'll get the random few things, but it definitely wouldn't be something that would be consistent on my feed. But new profile, they've got no data points on me. Open it up, and I, randomly I could just start to see. It's like, oh, I'm getting loads of stuff here that's very like.
When was this?
Very extreme right or left. This was probably like. How long has TikTok been around? This might have been like 2 years ago, year and a half ago, something like that. So, but so it was very much like, I would class it as heavily right or left, like far right or left. Straight away it was just like really sensationalist information that it was giving me, and I was like, oh, this is really interesting. It's like, it doesn't know much about me, but it's really heavily pushing me that way, like, whereas like, you open up.
What did you get more of? Right or left? Which did you get more of?
I can't even remember too much. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like it's. I think the reason why I tell that story is
Yeah,
because I pretty much stopped using TikTok
Yeah,
almost
yeah,
after.
yeah.
Like
I
I used it
went
for a little
near
bit,
it.
and then I just went, oh, all I'm getting here is like stuff that boils your blood. I was like,
Yeah,
what is
yeah.
going on?
No, I
And like,
went
look,
near it.
it's a shortened use of a form of social media, but I was just a bit like, what is?
Yeah, I went
Do
near
I
it, but I
want to be on
looked.
this?
I looked up because I was like, how much does Instagram do in terms of views? Like how much people are on Instagram?
Yeah,
It thinks like 2 point something billion.
yeah,
And
something
then
like that.
TikTok is now 1 billion
Yeah,
plus. Like,
crazy amount.
but like, I don't know. I just haven't went near it. My sister keeps trying to get me to go on. She's like, you should go on there, like, and just do comedy or something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I just.
But I think like all forms of media seem to be, all forms of social media seem to be that way, right? There's a certain level of interaction that they want.
Yeah.
Like it's the whole thing from that show, documentary, The Social Dilemma, right?
Oh yeah.
I can't think of your man's name now.
I know what you're talking about though.
He's talked about it as like he's a social media ethicist. So
Yeah.
it's like it's loads of different things about like how Google and how
He
Gmail
worked in
even
Google or
pushes
something like
stuff.
that, didn't he?
Yeah,
And he left.
totally. And it's like it's crazy to think that there are, computer engineers working on these things, like thousands upon thousands of like really high paid, well educated people trying to adjust an algorithm, adjust a platform to really delve into the psyche and everything that we know about neurochemistry and neuroscience, to be able to say, okay, this stuff is really like when you think about the interface and everything is planned out.
Yeah, like what you're looking at for the longest amount of time. Like you're watching a video for 30 seconds versus 5 and you go off it. Yeah, but these are the times, isn't that it? These are the times.
Yeah, totally.
It's I think on that side, like it's great. You know, like I definitely used to be. It's been until you're using it more and not being used by it in some way, like that. I think that's the side of it. It's the balance between that. It's like you're gonna someday sit down and just scroll for a good bit, and like your Jesus, the time just went there. But when you're using it properly, then that's when you start to see this other side. Like it's an extremely if you're resourceful, it's an extremely useful tool. Like think about it, right? You can in this age go and watch a teacher in New York or Japan or whatever else like that on their dance page and learn from them for free. Like if you want to learn how, I learned how to do the moonwalk off YouTube the glide or something like that it's called, and I just searched and I found this guy from New York and he's does it one video every Monday or something like that, and I was like, that's incredible. It's an amazing tool. Like that side of it.
Like for sure the level of information that's out there as a result of like it's not just social media, right? It's the internet in general, but like social media largely are the platforms that we go to use to be exposed to these sort of things. They know what we're interested in, they know what they can push to us in that way. For sure that is definitely one of the more positive things when you look at it from that perspective. But then I also consider it's like, well, what are potentially the downfalls as a result of seeing all this sort of stuff? Like I've considered it in terms of like obviously our direct use of it and what we help people with. Like one of the things that I find very interesting when you have conversations with people about like movement or physical activity training in some way is you find a lot of people on like the free forms of media, and there's so much information out there, so many myths, and so like unfortunately so much like crap.
Clickbait.
And you see these videos where it's like we just commented on, it's like, oh, sort out your back pain with these 10 exercises, and it's just like,
that's the shit I hate.
It's very, very weird because we both know it's like you need to do something with someone for a long period of time. You need to match where they're currently at.
Experience.
You need to see them move to be able to determine what things are going to be doable by them, what things are maybe out of their wheelhouse for the moment. You want to progress them forward, and that sort of way. It's very, very complex. It's it's not as simple as just saying do this one exercise, and that's what social media has promoted as a result of the access to information. It's like, oh, everybody goes onto it feeling like, totally, I could go and just write myself up a gym program. And it's like, maybe you could have got there a little bit easier than some people have, and there'd be the one in however many people that are really able to go and do it. Like you hear some people that like learn how to code purely off of the internet, and it's like, that's mad. Like someone would have had to go to and do a course to go and do something like that, and it's like you have to be aware of your sources, where you're getting the information, how high quality that information is. But the thing that I would argue really is that the majority of information out there is trash. And then the majority of people don't know how to decipher that good information from bad information. And then the things that we get pushed on social media, those things being more sensationalist, those things being more like triggering, or those things being more like engagement dependent, are potentially the poorer forms. You know, like we could sit here and chat about the science of training, and while that is very valuable information, that information probably won't get thousands upon thousands of clicks. The information that probably will is
your neck.
Me calling out someone specifically, me saying like, this is the cure, this is the thing you need to do. It's very much like black and white thinking in terms of like, here are the 10 things that are the worst thing you could ever do for back pain.
Yeah, I think
and
that's
it very much toxic. Becomes like
calling other people out. I think is toxic. I see whatever course or whatever system, recording another page and then shitting on them.
Yes,
you know, like there is some people that you're like, you're kind of telling people to do whatever, and you just silently just go, okay, grand. I'm never gonna do that stuff like that. Do you know that?
Yes, I know what you're talking
about. that kind of thing, right? Like, I look at it and go, it's absurd, but I'm not gonna just now screen record the guy's thing and say whatever. He's doing his own thing. It's just not my flavor, and it's just that's enough then. But then it's the other thing is like the neck pain, back pain, how to squat properly, how to do this properly. Don't do it that way. Fix this.
I guess pain in general, like, is such an easy one. It's such a that we maybe need to have more ethical standards when it comes to that sort of stuff, right? Because that is a very weird landscape to go into, because someone now has like there's suffering attached to it, right? It's like someone is in pain and someone is looking to get out of pain, and that can be a very sort of hard territory to traverse, you know. Like I've always been very careful with my language in terms of how I communicate my things around pain. Exactly. I've always tried to say, it's like, look, I'm not a physio. No. Like, I can provide options for you. Like, I'm happy enough in terms of my education that I can take someone who is potentially experiencing pain and I can have a conversation with them to discover whether or not that person actually can benefit from the type of work that I do, or potentially needs to go and see a specialist. But I would argue potentially that I'm not necessarily the
pain guy.
I'm not necessarily the norm when it comes to the stuff that's out there. Like there are unfortunately a lot of people on the internet that would take someone in pain and just go, yeah, cool, I can fix you for like whatever amount. And then it's like you come in and not that you could have a good experience and who knows, but you're probably not going to get the best source of information when you could go and see someone like in person, an actual specialist versus someone who is claiming to be a specialist or just trying to figure it out for yourself via online means, and that's kind of like a poor form. Like I've always considered that idea of like the inner circle being such an important thing, you know. Like there's a certain amount of information that we both hold in our mind right now and collectively that we're just not giving out to everybody. We have that information that we hold to ourselves, that we only communicate with people who are ready for it, or who are willing to come on this journey or take from us and treat it as serious. Versus like you could just give away all the sauce, and while that's beneficial to like bring people in some form, but it's like you could give like absolute gold and people
they don't see it,
they don't see any value in it, because it's like how many times has it come across for you? We've chatted about this in the past where, you know, we use social media as a form of marketing to be able to bring people in and to be able to talk to them about, like, hopefully we find a common ground in terms of their interests, and we say, cool, like if you want to come along and try some form of physical activity, integrate this in some way, like let's go ahead. That's what I offer, that's what I do. And when you present this stuff to some people, sometimes you might give away some resources for free, and it's like this thing probably is very good.
Yeah.
Sorry, it definitely is. It's like, I know it works. It's like, I've tried it with people in person, and I'm communicating this thing to you. But sometimes the free information just gets thrown away, because it's like, how much stuff is there out there that you're just not really, like you said it earlier with the save post. It's like, you save it and best intentions. You certainly do have the best intentions.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's I think it's a problem, isn't it? Because like, think of it as a relationship. You earn this. There's steps. You're invested. You're bit by bit. You know, you're putting time and effort and things into it. You're researching. You know, you're finding out the other person's likes. You know, you want to know more. Like, I think sometimes with this stuff, and again, this is actually is negative. It's more middle ground. It's like, you go on and like, I don't know, you're just passively looking at different things. It's where, if you make a decision to go for a project, you sign up and you get involved in something where you're just doing little bits here and there. If there's something more whole or integrated, that you're doing a full process. I think that's the problem. Like, I used to do it when I had a problem with my shoulder, like years ago, early stages. I think that's why I pulled back and started listening a lot more and practicing things myself. It was just like, it was people putting up the, like, you know, fix your winged scap, whatever it was. And I think for me, like, I started becoming more interested in the psychology side of it. Was like watching these things and seeing that you fix this and that needs to be symmetrical, or you need to have this in line and that. And then out of nowhere, you're just like, Jesus Christ, everything's off. Do you know what I mean? And then you're nearly making yourself, you know, more fragile, where you're just like, all right, you know, shoulders don't need to be perfect. If you know, it doesn't have to sit perfect, all these other things, because that's what a lot of clickbait is, that you should have a perfect squat and you should have perfect shoulders and they should be perfectly gliding around the rib cage and all that stuff. And you're just like, then I started looking at it, it's like, look at this fighter, that their shoulders hanging off here and they move unbelievable, they're able to move really well, and you're like, that's when you're just like, it's a load of shite when it comes down to your experience. You know, like, how much have you invested into systems and projects and other things like that, and finding out for yourself and staying engaged in something, rather than this just low kind of frequency, you know, it's pointing out a wrong and then not giving you anything but like one exercise or something like that, you know. I was middle ground, and then I went to negative.
Straight away to the negative.
Yeah, but like, really, like, it's like the other side of like pain and other things like that. Like, I follow I think he's a physio, he's a yogi physio on Instagram.
Yes.
And John Yun is really good when it comes to pain and pointing out kind of these absurdities that we do when we go for we're not putting our knees over our toes, doing stuff like that, and then we're going like way knees over toes, and that must be good. And it's like, you just change the stimulus, and maybe that's why it felt good. You know, that's the playing around with things and kind of trying different varieties and all this sort of stuff, instead of going like, you're doing this and that's bad. It's like, is it like there's a lot of neurosis around it. So I think I don't know. Anyway, over
it's that
time,
whole thing. It's like, was the thing that you did the cure, or was it just the fact that you did
changed?
You changed something, and you did it on a very regular and consistent basis, and as a result, you adapted to that consistency. Versus it being it
was deadlift that was bad. You know?
Totally.
I think
like,
that's...
it's silly to point out, and obviously we have this perspective because we understand a lot more of the theories.
We've practiced a lot more.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's hard to, I can't pin one exercise specifically
that saved you,
that did, you know, that got me really strong legs. You know, it's like I did lots of exercises over a long period of time in many different ways, for many different types of reps and weights and everything. It's like, I can't point out one that solved my strength issues with my legs. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it was a whole cacophony ecosystem of various different things that had to be changed and played with. And it's like, if I were to miss that, which a lot of people unfortunately do, I think, anyway, is it'd be a shame, right? Because you'd be spinning your wheels, making no progress, and being like, oh, but I didn't, you know, I didn't see any change. It's like, how long did you do it for?
Yeah.
And how many times did you do it?
And that
within
thing that
period?
cured you eventually is going to become stale.
Yeah,
That's the other side.
Yeah, exactly.
The-
It's like
that-
it eventually will. Like
it will get stale.
You'll see as
You'll
much
have
as
to
you as
evolve.
you had to get from it.
So
Yeah.
that's another kind of thing for just in general, just to note for people, is that whatever it is, like, right, you've done the joint by joint approach.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it as well, and it's like unreal. It's like my spine has never done this.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
I've never been able to articulate every single
Vertebrae,
vertebrae.
yeah.
Never. And then I think it was Mary. She was training with me, and she was like, "That is mental." Because the first time I was like, I showed her,
Yes,
she's like, "That is mental," and I
I
was
was
like,
same thing as well. When I demonstrated, people were like, "What?"
yeah, but like, and it's like at the start you're like, this is unreal, but then it's like, yeah, of course, I just put a lot of time into just really, taking care of this thing that I'm involved in, and then you're like, yeah, but I want to do something else now. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And it like, that's the thing with exercise, is like things become stale, and then you have to try different things, and then I don't know, man. I don't know. We're gone off now with YouTube, but it's
we're certainly gone off
gone off
social
in a
media a
tangent.
bit,
But it's going back to that, going like, stay involved, and then find out for yourself a little bit. Like, get help. With certain things. Like I find, what I did with Julia in Vienna. I said, like, I'm giving you something to work towards, hands and stuff. Question everything that I'm doing. Like, I think that's essential. Is like, question what I'm doing, ask me, and then also like try to figure out, is there a better way of doing this? Because while I was learning how to do the handstand, I'm like, there's no blueprint yet. Like, I haven't figured out the best way to do it.
Like, I have to figure out.
I'm doing
exactly
it. I openly said that to her.
I
was like, look, I'm just trying to figure this out, and there's no best way. I was like, I'm giving you as much as I've learned right now, and like, there's no best way. So when she came and she said, I seen this thing on YouTube, and I said, is it helping you get closer to where you want to get? And she said, I can contract or feel this thing a little bit more. I'm like, unreal. I was like, if you can gather more information for you, it's like, that thing is good for you then.
Yeah.
Like, that's the plus side of it, is like, if you're taking what is on YouTube, let's say, and then you apply it and you're like, this is good, that was absolute horseshit, and then back with the clickbait things, is like, they're just gonna, if you're not acting on them or signing up to that course that they're saying they have a way, and you're not getting any benefit, it's just neurosis. It's clickbait, and it's going to make you worry more about your body, and all the people that are you like this, that kind of thing of over on the desk. It's like, all that stuff, we're all on the desk. It's like, that's not helpful. It's not like helpful pointing out that you're working at a desk so you're crippled now. That type of stuff. I always go off in tangents about that, because I'm like, everyone works at a desk now. Me and you now will be sitting for the next couple of hours. It's like, combat that by moving. Like that, them ones, like.
but I think that's maybe another thing to consider as well, is like, how does marketing change in line with social media? It's like the way in which things were marketed to the general population were very different when they first started. Like, when you think about general advertising, it would have been very much direct. It would have been like solution and problem oriented. It'd be like, quite simply, it would be, do you have an injury? Come to physio. Pretty much like problem solution, and that would have always been the way in which things were sort of communicated. And while that's still prevalent, it's obviously still there. It's like, is there a way in which kind of things have got a bit like,
well, people have to call people out now as well. That's the thing. There's people doing that now that are rightfully in some way doing it. They're calling people out because there's somebody that they're going to, and they're like, you're shit. You sit, you're shit. You're sitting sideways, your pelvis is rotated, you're basically shit. Like, just pointing out all the flaws, and then giving them a very basic solution. Where then these people that are coming up on social media that are calling out a lot of stuff, it's on that side of it, they're some of them people I agree with, because they're kind of going like, I don't like that. I've went to a physio once or twice, and it's like, I don't like you pointing out that, were you sitting at a desk, where, you know, don't ask me no questions before it's got nothing to do with it. Give me my solution. That's the straightforwardness with it. I think that then people who are calling that stuff out, that they're, you know, you're basically pointing out a lot of people's what they're doing with their life, the flaws, issues, and then you might give them something, but then they're like, oh, I sit at a desk, you know. No, I find that people identify with that. Then it's like, oh, it's the desk, it's killing me, you know, or, you know, I'm just.
And it is very strange that we've had this conversation before, right? Where like the idea of pointing out those things, like it was that meme of that comedian, right? Where it's like, oh, you're walking wrong, mate. You know, it's like when you get into that, it's like, crap, like what does that do to someone? It's like you're talking about an issue, like some form of injury, some form of pain and discomfort that is happening for the person, and you're pointing out, it's like, oh, you're walking wrong. And what does that do?
You hold a baby, do you? You hold your baby to the side, you're tilted to the right. And it's like all these things.
It's incredible to think that like that now becomes something that person like it's the, I suppose it's understanding the weight of what you say and what matters and how you're communicating. It's like, while, you know, it's a form of marketing to be able to say like, get into the person's mind and say, oh, you have this issue, that issue, this issue, and like you've considered like, okay, this is my target market and these are their issues, and I'm gonna highlight these issues and I'm gonna really focus on them. They're pain points, they're things that are going wrong. And it's like, as a result of highlighting those pain points, constantly pushing on them, constantly going about them, it's like, oh crap, like, you know, Ronan and Adam said that it's really bad for me to have like a tilted pelvis, like, and I might be walking incorrectly, and now I constantly have this thing in the back of my mind of I'm walking wrong, and something that just wasn't even considered beforehand. That may actually,
it's being respectful for their psyche.
It may actually have more of a
negative effect.
Like, it may not actually be that big of a deal. Like, what if they aren't walking?
This is what I was kind of pointing at. You know? That's what I'm kind of pointing at about what I felt when I was younger with my this psychology of it. I was like, I'm creating some issues like with my body. Like, it's the kind of thing, right? Like, pain is, I'm not a pain specialist. I'm not like, I'm putting my hands up and saying that, but I'm very observant. I've watched a lot of people in the gyms. I've helped people come back from injuries. I've watched that kind of psychological side of it because I'm very interested in it, because I've pointed out things going, do you notice now while we're rehabbing your knee that you're tensing up your entire body? And it's like, maybe try to relax, you know, like whatever, just point out, it's like, it's just like, do you see you're tensing up? And then they let go and it's with ease. Like the same way my sister was absolutely, she had back pain for ages. She got diagnosed with scoliosis, right? Again, I don't know about these things because it could be a slight curve, or, you know, and then they say scoliosis. But then she was doing unreal with her training, and she was no problems with her back. She's training real well, and then she had a really, really stressful period in life with work, everything else. And it's like back pain flared up, and it's like she's out. And I just pointed out, I was like, look, are you aware? Are you just aware that you were doing grand and things were fine, and then a lot of this life stuff came, and then your back pain is back? And I was like, it's just something to think about. I think that's the other side of like pain and managing it. You need to take that into consideration and really go like, where am I at the moment? You know, like I'm in bits with my neck or my back, and it's like, where am I? Like, I might be moving, but where am I mentally? Like, what way have I been the last while? Alcohol, other things like that. These are all influences on your pain levels and even your relationship with pain. I think they're big things that a lot of people maybe need to think more about than even like perfect squats and this and that and the other. Sometimes like technique is important, but when you're at that side of it, of neurosis and getting pulled in by these things, and someone's planting that seed that you're sitting at a chair and you're sitting wrong and you're walking wrong and you're taking all that in, it's like check in with yourself more regularly, you know, see what that's like, move you know, in multiple different ways, I think.
But I guess that's, I
went off on a bit of a tangent.
No,
you know,
it's something to consider, because obviously when the person is trying to resolve something, and they are trying to become more conscious of what are the things that are
relevant.
what are the things that are relevant to the pain that I'm experiencing? And the majority of the time we certainly go towards the physical. And it does, I'm not dismissing the physical and
100%.
saying that we can't resolve some things physically to help improve the pain. But I guess what you're pointing to is all of these sort of lateral things that get
what's
that
your relationship
don't really
with
get
pain?
Considered, don't really get seen as important when they really could hold a lot of value for people
100%.
to combat or to help with their pain.
Investigate a little bit, like it's the observation of pain as well, like you know, like if you're in a lot of pain, and like I feel it as well.
Can I say very quickly? I don't want to belay this.
We're gone off the sorry,
we're going into pain.
We went off on it.
We need to make sure that we don't go
down
too
the
road
far
that we intend on going. So I think
we'll pull it back
to social media, because this is where we were going with a lot of the stuff in terms of the negative aspect of social media, right? It's like those things become the go-to in terms of the physical training space. It's very much the negative side, we feel anyway, is the pain side of things. I know we're not the only ones that consider it. That there's definitely a lot of people that would consider the pain aspect of social media as like a kind of, this isn't as great as we think. You know, while it's great to have that access to information, experts are still experts. You know, like you need to see a specialist. You need to see someone who is really, really experienced with this sort of stuff, has a good track record, you know, in person, can help you. And I think that's the issue in some way as well, is because you can work with people in person that are terrible as well. You really have to do your due diligence. I say that all the time like an absolute idiot. Due diligence. You need to do your due diligence. So like, ask people, do they have a good physio, or do they know of someone that's very, very good? Does that person seem to have a good track record? Are they like well educated, even with their education?
Best physio is the one you just never go back to ever again. Seriously, right? I got a physio in Dublin, never had to get, like, it was, he addressed something, it was very spot on, it was resolved in a second, or not in a second, sorry, it was resolved, and I was like, unreal. I was like, you know, they're the people that I'll always send to. I don't know much people
but I guess that's the thing, right, is like you hear about it so much with like, we're definitely going to go down a quick tangent very, very quickly in terms of like the physio injury resolution sort of space. It's so interesting when I have conversations with people about like what the experience that they're having with that person. And I feel when it gets into like there's never really a sort of plan in place, or there's never really like a change in what they're doing. They seem to be doing the same thing over and over again, and they're making no progress. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you need to go see someone else. Like, if they haven't laid out a plan of management to be able to say like, this is where we're getting to, this is how we're going to get there, and these are the phases that we're going to go through, like some form of progression.
Can I play devil's advocate with this?
You can, of course. Go for it very quickly.
Because
I feel like
we will. But just on that we can nearly change the name of this.
We didn't even discuss social media. It was just pain.
So, but just it's one side of that as well is that you have to watch, because physios get a bad rap, but some people go to physio, get the exercises, and do it passively. That's it. And I've seen that.
Oh no, of course, I guess
the poor physios getting the abuse.
It's both sides. Like, it's the same thing. It's like someone coming to us and asking us for help with being physically prepared and going into these areas, and then we asked them what they did and they didn't do a thing. It's like, well, what did you expect? Like, that happens, and it's unfortunate that it does. But
physios, there's good physios out there.
For sure,
you know, it's just
more. For sure. And it's
when you get the exercises, be as conscious as possible about what you're putting your money into. My brother had a problem with shoulder. I said, Barry, ask for a progressive plan. Ask for a progressive plan that you want to go and get this, and you want the next plan laid out then after, until that it's resolved and you're stronger to your shoulder. That's what if I was to a little pinpoint in this whole thing of the conversation is, say that when you go to physio, I want a progressive plan, and then that's it. It's like, if you can't get that, then go get somebody else. That's
for sure.
it.
Like that's
finish it there, bro. Pin it.
For sure, that's the important thing. The last point that I was going to make is like, it's for, I think where this comes from in my mind is, I'm not trying to do it to shit on people in the profession. I think what we need to be aware of is that like we are the representatives of our profession. Like, we in some way represent teachers of physical activity or personal trainers, fitness, culture, whatever it is. And as a result, we need to highlight these issues to make ourselves more aware of them, to be able to combat them. So that as a result, we are highlighting those things that don't get us anywhere, because those are the things that are not beneficial to us. They're not going to help us in any way. And so when they become the majority, we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard. It's not to say that you as an individual doing these things are bad. That's never the thing that I'm trying to say. It's like, I'm not trying to, if it's someone who's a poor personal trainer, or someone who's a poor physiotherapist, a poor sports medicine practitioner, whatever it is, it's like, it's not the individual, it's the field making sure that we are aware that we need to have higher standards. And as a result of setting a higher standard and making getting people up to that standard, we have a better ecosystem, we have a better environment. Like, I think that's very, very important, because it is very easy to just be like, oh, what you're doing is terrible. And you can sit and just point out the negative, but not actually do anything to progress things.
That's why I play.
So that's why I want to give that information to people, to say like, look, these are the things that I want you to look for in terms of finding a good person to go and see to resolve these issues. You know. Now,
back to social media. So that was probably lots of culture.
I think for me, right, what I'm aware of is these are issues that we can go on for ages about. We're talking about the positive and negatives, and I don't want this episode to be like a million minutes long. Like, I think that would be a good place to sort of finish for the moment. We've highlighted some of the positives, some of the negatives. We've maneuvered our way into society in some way about this as well. And maybe if I think what we can pull from is, if some of the topics that we discuss like hit the nail on the head, and we see that there's been good reaction and good response from some of it, like utilizing, I suppose, the positives of social media, seeing what's actually hitting the nail on the head, then we can explore those things. I
didn't actually say to you, but the last one we did, there was a lot of messages.
Oh, good. Cool.
A lot of people were good, because they agreed with just what we're talking about right now, is that they've had enough of people saying about their pelvis being out of line or all this other stuff, and they're like, they kind of, a few messages sound like it's like, it's absurd, you know. It's just that it's relevant right now, because it's a lens in which we're looking at the body, and we're forgetting about a lot of other elements. Like, that's why I think that's why we went off there on that. It was just to,
but that's it as well. Like,
we're finding what's useful. That's I think it's like finding what is useful, and then maybe offering it a different way. And it's then to just maybe inform people as like, try to not only try these things physically, but then try to also zoom out and start to think a little bit around these kind of clickbait things, or that you're broken in some way. I think it's an important thing, because it's a mindset that you're developing as you are doing physical work.
Totally. Like if I were to consider, obviously, the topic of conversation being social media, it's like it's almost like what I would want from this is for people to realize like what we want out of our social media and what we're trying to do. It's like, I do want to create like some form of conversation and community online. It's like, if you do come into the comment section, I'd love for you to comment, even though I said like, what do I respond to in terms of a fire emoji? It's like, if you thought it deserved a fire emoji, give me a fire 100%. Emoji. That would be great. If you want to have a conversation about things, like, do private message me, do 100%. Leave a comment, whatever it is. It's like, if you do want to be an active participant in this, like, happy days, like, I'll take that on board. It's just then to consider, like, we'll obviously get some people who'll come through and just be like, they'll just harp away on something that's, one thing that we said, and maybe they've misinterpreted it, or maybe they have a perspective that's different to ours, and it's like, cool, like, give me that opinion, but it's like, let's make sure that we're open to communication, and not just like pig-headed and saying like, this, I see things this way, and you're not going to convince me. It's like, cool, that's grand. I'm not going to sit here and try and convince you. I'm also not going to realize that social media also probably isn't the best way to have this back and forth, in a sense. Let's do what we can with social media
take my number and call me.
The form of communication. Exactly.
Come at me, bro.
But let's do what we can on social media, and then like if things progress,
please engage. Please engage. Like I had this thought one of the days, I was just laughing. I was like, I think why I kind of was shy away from social media before was because I'm extroverted. And it's like talking to a wall. You're just like, all right, lads. I think it was just funny. I was laughing about it one of the days. I was like, I think it's it's important, you know, that we're back and forth, and I'm learning a lot from doing these. It's like, you know, we'll go into little tangents, and then I know that when we come back we'll be like, yeah, look, I said this, but you know, I'm also coming from a good place. I was saying
do you want to address
your
thing right now?
You know, like I've worked.
So let me introduce this. So Adam would like to make a public apology right now.
Yeah. Like look, this is all very new to me. Like, okay. So I feel like I sometimes go off on tangents, and I think it's just from passion. You know, it's a passion for this, and I did on the last one. I was like, you know, soulless things in the gym, and I think I'll talk about my own experience.
And can I put up my hand for a second?
Yeah.
I said at the time I saw the what
moment.
you said. I was like,
Jesus Christ,
damn, bro.
But
I knew it's like the conversation that we're having. I knew the context.
Yeah,
and I knew what you meant in some way.
But other people don't. You know.
I can understand why someone might have seen
that as bad.
Yeah, totally.
Because it's not right in some way. Right, I'll explain it from me, and then just it's to think about it. Right, for me, when we worked in the gym for years, and it's like it's full on loud music, noise. You know, it's intense. You know, it can be a strange environment.
Yeah, a very
mirrors everywhere. You know, a lot of focus on image, and it's like it's where I am now. That I when I came into your studio, and when I came away from the commercial kind of gyms, I just had this thing going, Jesus Christ, there's so much distractions in the gym.
Yes.
Or it's so noisy. It's like, and in the gym we worked in, it's like there was bloody TVs and things like that. While you're doing a chest press, you've a thing in front of you. So it's very far gone, right? Mm-hmm. For me. So it's just like on that side, it's very noisy and stuff. And I've been out of the gym now for 2 years. I'm using it again now.
Yes.
Well, winter, and I feel like being outdoors, being in the quiet, being in a studio that's quiet, getting a little bit more quiet yourself, you know, being more conscious of how you move. These are all things that will affect how you feel, connect to your body a little bit more. It's the feedback I've got from working with people online that have come out of the gym environment as well. It's like they're connecting to themselves a little bit better. That's the perspective that I'm coming, the more positive side of it.
Yes.
And then outside of that, it's like I also know a lot of people who have come away from it, or just people that have got to that point of the gym going, they're lost. And I feel for that as well, because I'm like, I want people like that to come away and try different things, and people have been and been open to some of the practices that we've studied. That's the side of it, because I feel a lot of joy in a lot of stuff I do. Like I've you know, the child kind of wonder to a lot of movement, and I just feel like if people that are lost or they're lacking meaning is the main reason I went to Marcello, is there's a lacking meaning in what I was doing. Like the strength training was done and it's useful now, I'm using it in the winter, but it's this kind of thing going, if you're lacking meaning in the gym and there's these other options, there's tons of different options for physical activity. So I think that's what I meant on that side of it, is that if you have lost your way in the gym and you want to try different things and explore, and maybe a lot of people liked what we were talking about when it comes to play, and the book I recommended, Play, I feel like this is the moment for whoever that is to go and try it, you know. So that's just that.
Totally.
You know,
cool.
It's from a place of love, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
I love the gym, still go to it. It gave me my health, it gave me everything, you know. It's where I'm still in right now, but it's essential that I address these things.
Yes. but that's it. It's like the more and more I've read up on like various things in terms of communication, it's like I'm right now trying to take something in my head and put it into words and communicate it to you, and something gets lost there. And I might have said something, you know, years back that I didn't really mean, or just got misinterpreted or whatever, or I could have said something at the time that was very, very stupid, and I did genuinely believe it at the time, but now in hindsight, I'm like, I'm an idiot.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, that can happen as well.
I think it's
allowing that to happen, and I think that's all that you need to worry about in those sort of circumstances. At least being understanding the person's position, what they meant, forgiving them for what they said, even though it was a minor thing that probably nobody even cared about.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, like, I think it's the age, isn't it? Like, it's the age of, you have to be mindful of what you're saying, right?
Totally.
Also, like, look, sometimes if I trigger you, good.
Yeah.
It's like,
if anything, that says more about you than it does about
exactly.
me.
Yeah, like, I thank God for triggers. You know, like, they're also a thing that, you know, someone triggers something in that they might say in a podcast or whatever. It's great. It's, you know what, there's a lot to learn there.
Investigate that. Look into it. What was it about that had such a
maybe I need to pull that back now. I'm gonna pull back and be like, no, I retract my I retract my statement
week by week.
No, but I think it's the age, you know. It's to say things and mean what you say, you know.
Yeah.
Be mindful.
Totally.
Well, love you, Jim Bros.
We'll park it there. If this is I suppose our plea at the end. We'll try to do this at the end of every episode. I'll try to do this on like our communications on social media, but it's like, you know, yeah, we'd love all the like, share and follow and all that sort of stuff. Like, that would be great. But I suppose in terms of a call to action, if you want to call it that, it's like, engage. Like, whatever that is to you. So like, if this was something that you thought was really interesting, or you have some opinions on it, like, get in touch with us. You know, like, message us, leave it in the comment section, all that sort of stuff. It's like, that's what we genuinely want to create over time. It's like, I don't like, for me personally,
please,
it's like,
don't leave us in the void.
but that's the thing. It's like, I hate the idea of like focusing on the vanity metrics. It's like, oh, how many views did our post get, and how many likes do you get? It's like of course it's the immediate tangible metric that we can see from that sort of stuff, but like, in my eyes, it's like, if we were to release something and it actually got like, even if it got like very low views, if that actually got loads of comments and people messaging us and giving us their opinions and communicating with us, that in my eyes would be way better. It's like, that's what we're learning for. That's what I want.
Yeah. Like, all of us are learning. Like, that's what I feel like. That's why I was thinking about this after I said that last time. It's like, I'm constantly learning with this. It's like, it's great. And I think that's also a great thing of social media, is that you can learn. You can fire what you think over to me and say what you want, and then I might say the opposite, and we'll go back and forth. And I think that's the essential part, that like, because if somebody said something that's triggered me on social media, great, I have to go off now, like, you know, and then think about it. It's like, why am I getting angry? It's something to do with me, like. But then the same, like, you know, like, I think that's the essential thing I've found lately, is small little mentions or things that people reach out. One of the girls that came to the workshop said that about, she loved our perspective on play. I think if it hits, send me a message. Yeah, big time. Cool. It's essential.
Nice. Yeah. Well, look, thanks for tuning in, folks. We'll see you on the next episode. All the best.